Okay, so the Roman Republic is facing several problems. It's on the verge of collapse. The first problem that it's facing is there is a lot of kind of internal arguing, civil unrest. So when you're arguing amongst yourselves, it makes you very weak to an outside enemy, right? So they're bickering and arguing amongst themselves. The slaves are having constant uprisings. And as this is going on, their military is out conquering more lands. Well, when they conquer a land, they bring home the captives, the people from that land, as slaves. So the slaves are already riled up and uprising and all this kind of stuff, and they just keep bringing more in. Okay. They also need money. The Republic did not have money because the money was going to these conquests here and there in France, in Gaul, in Egypt, and all these places that they're trying to take over and all this kind of stuff. Well, that costs money. You have to pay soldiers. You can't ask slaves to fight for you. They're certainly not going to do that, and they're going to rebel. So you have to pay soldiers. You have to pay for things like construction of roads and things like that. A police force. They did not have a police force because they didn't have any money to pay anyone to do it. So crime was at an all-time high. All these problems compounded. Plus, the government had become very corrupt. The senators, the patricians had become very dishonest. They would take basically bribes from anybody who could give them money. Whoever can give me the most, I'll vote whatever way you want. And so they're all being manipulated by other people, and they don't care because their pockets are full. Okay, so this is the point where the Republic is at. So then these three guys form what's called the First Triumvirate, which is basically an alliance of three people. Okay, so there's Julius Caesar, Pompey, and Crassus. All three are military generals. Caesar, in particular, is a very talented military general. Pompey is as well, and Crassus is a military general, but also has lots of money, which obviously helps them sort of take power, so to speak. Or get, kind of support enough to do that. So once again, they're all fighting. Even though they're ruling Rome or whatever, the three of them, they still have this need to keep on conquering all these places, right? So Crassus is killed in battle, which leaves only the two of them, Julius Caesar and Pompey. So Pompey is back in Rome. He's actually ruling from Rome. And Julius Caesar is out on his military conquests. So Pompey is like, okay, he's getting a little uneasy because Julius Caesar has met and fallen in love with the Queen of Egypt, Cleopatra, who is supposed to be co-ruling with her younger brother, but she's totally pushed him out of the picture. He will get older later, which is important, but as of right now, she's basically the sole ruler of Egypt. Well, she knows that he's coming, and she is afraid that he is going to take over Egypt. So she comes up with a plan of, you know what, instead of him, I will make him fall in love with me, and then he won't take over Egypt. And so that's what she set out to do, and that's what she did. So Pompey, he's seeing this, and he's like, okay, that's making him very uneasy because she's the queen of Egypt, and Julius Caesar is what co-ruler of Rome. So were they to team up and take over the world or whatever they wanted to do, they could very easily push Pompey out of the picture. So he sends a message to Julius Caesar, who's once again off, fighting, and says, come home now. Bring your troops and come home. Like, that's enough. Fighting, whatever. So Julius Caesar gets this message, him and his legion, his soldiers, when they are at this river. It's called the Rubicon River. Okay, so Julius Caesar gets the message, and he's like, okay, I've got two options here. Number one, I can do what he said and we can go on back home, right? A lot of his soldiers are like, dude, we're tired. Okay, or he knows if I keep on going, that it's going to start a civil war, because that's a deliberate, I don't agree with you, I'm not listening to you, etc. So he knows what will happen. So he's thinking about it, he's like, okay, you know what? I don't like being told what to do, cross the Rubicon, which is the river that they were in front of. So they crossed the Rubicon and kept on going. So the phrase today, crossed the Rubicon, if you've ever heard it, you probably haven't, but if you haven't, you will at some point in your life. It means there's no going back. So Julius Caesar himself even said, the die has been cast. So basically, come what may. Whatever happens, happens. So it did do exactly what he thought it would do, and it started a civil war between Julius Caesar and Pompey. Julius Caesar, long story short, defeats Pompey and goes back to Rome and declares himself dictator for life. Well, in the past, one of the two consuls could assume the position or role of dictator for 6 months, only in the case of an immediate threat, like an invasion or something of that sort. And again, only for 6 months, and for practical reasons, because one person needed to make the decisions and they needed to be made quickly. Well, he declares himself dictator for life, which is a pretty significant change in government. So he keeps the Senate, the patricians that are the members of the Senate, they have that role for life. He keeps them in place because he's saying, no, it's still a republic. It's still a republic. So he keeps them there, and they have a very limited amount of power. The people, however, love Julius Caesar. He is a very effective ruler. He gave a lot of money to the poor. He gave a lot of land to the poor. He did a lot of really good things for Rome. The Senate, however, is becoming very anxious that he's going to more or less crown himself king. So when they figure out that Caesar and Cleopatra have a son named Caesarion, they really start to kind of kick it in high gear, because they're like, okay, if he crowns himself king, he now has what? He has an heir to take his place. It's a male. So they come up with this plan to assassinate Caesar, even though he is a lot of their best friends.
Friends, we are here to celebrate the return of Caesar! He has returned not only with Her Majesty Cleopatra, but with Egypt itself, for he has transformed the richest land in the known world. It is now not only Egypt, it is Egypt, and it is Rome!
I've said before.
Do you still believe that ours is not a just cause?
I'm with you.
We have to act soon.